people then of how different like quote gangs are of different kinds of people.
Cliques.
I don't know, cliques and
There's always
Yeah,
been-
but I thought Generation X was everybody in their 20s. So, I mean, that's a lot of people,
Yeah.
you know?
right. Okay then.
we're fat, lazy, good for nothing,
Slackers.
do nothing, slackers.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much that's what they say we are. I don't know. I ain't fat yet.
Yeah. I fucking work every day, you know?
Yeah.
Come on.
Just 'cause there ain't, the same amount of jobs and everything anymore. That's what it is. Holy shit. You have to have 4-year education to fucking wash dishes nowadays. It's fucking queer.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got somebody better qualified
Yeah.
for what? Washing
To
dishes?
wash dishes.
The fuck?
You know,
Stupid shit.
do you think that the advance in technology has to do with the way that we're called Generation X? Or do you think that technology plays a high role in what's going on with just how life is now compared to how life was too for maybe our parents or grandparents?
Everything's faster.
Definitely, that whole with the internet and all that, like, all the media communications now, you can get, you have 50 million people online at once, and that's 50 million people who can all see the same thing at the same exact moment. And it's so, like, diversified that it's not like TV where everybody's watching one of 4 stations. It's everybody can tap into, there's like a program for just about anything. I mean, if you wanted it to talk about almost anything and you're on the internet, there's probably something there.
There is, man.
Yeah,
You get
there's-
handguns, fucking naked ladies on your screen and shit,
Anything.
pornos.
Yeah, I've seen some ruthless shit on that.
Anything. It's just so diversified that there's something of interest for everybody.
Everything's faster, no matter what. It's stress nowadays. Do everything as fast as you can, so you have as much time to do to
Nothing.
play. To
But they
play.
got Prozac and Xanax.
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
it. We get burnt out too quick, is what it is.
It's 'cause
So
you
then-
stress it.
So do you
You
think
gotta
that?
have everything by the time you're 30 nowadays, or you're fucking gonna be nothing.
Yep.
So do you think that the new interest in certain drugs and stuff has to play with how we might be labeled as such? I mean, if we were to use Prozac and Xanax to make it through the day, I mean, how many of our founding fathers would
Well,
be using
that's just
pills and stuff to get through the day like that?
They
Well,
probably
everything's
do.
so
They've been
high
doing that for
speed.
years.
Everything's so high speed now, and there's so much stress on from day to day
Yeah.
that people get so high strung. I mean, back then you didn't even have cars around. Everything was done at a slower pace because it had to be.
Mhm.
Now you have so much stuff going on, and like even if you look at TV and commercials, it's all done. Like the American attention span is like it's 0.
Mhm.
That's why everybody channel surfs and everything is done at such a high, like breaky pace, like spliced together, pace that you just are stressed all the time.
Yeah.
So then they need to develop new drugs like that.
Yeah, it's kind of in a sense. So, yeah, it's kind of is like that. I mean, it's like you fit in everything so tight schedule.
Yep.
You know exactly what time you got to do this and this and this and this, and it's
Yeah.
just so more routine. That you're just like, yeah, the stress factor has a lot to do with how we get through fucking life.
Yeah, I smoke bullets.
Yeah.
Slows everything down. Ball. You milk everything when you're stoned, man. You do. You milk it like a motherfucker.
Mr. Procrastinator.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's like there's like many different angles that you can look at. The whole Generation X thing, though, if you think about it. I mean, it's just like a compilement of like, you got like we were just saying with how everything's so high speed, and that's just like one little fraction of how everything is just compiled together to look this way.
It's just another label that somebody else puts on you. Nope, I didn't think of it. It's not like I made it up. There was probably some old bastard somewhere
Yeah.
who said, well, they're not doing things the way that I did them, so now I'm going to label everybody this one
Well, I think
fucking
everybody
huge
does that.
sweeping generalization.
Everybody does that. Look at us nowadays. Everybody looks at the the generation nowadays, and I mean, I think the younger generation, even younger than us, has absolutely no respect for anything.
Yeah,
They don't.
really
They're
hurting.
10-year-olds and shit bringing guns to school and fucking, shit like that. It's just everybody thinks that way. Generation have gaps, man.
Yeah.
Generation gaps. We're getting old enough to have a generation under us now.
Like
so
our culture is getting like more lax and shit.
Yeah.
It's like breaking up into like
Mhm.
different areas.
Yeah.
People used to go to church every fucking
Sunday.
Sunday. Now you go maybe once a year for like Christmas Eve or something.
I
Or when
think
you go and
that's
visit your grandparents.
morality,
Yeah,
man.
or
There ain't no
someone died,
morality.
maybe.
All morality's gone, man.
no, it's because the middle class shrinks. So now instead of having like back in the old days, you used to have this one big huge middle class, which is the way our whole system is based on, as a middle class. And then you used to have social mobility. Like the American dream used to be, you want to own a big house with 2 cars, and you have your bunch of kids, and got to keep up with the neighbors and
Now
do
you're
as good
lucky
as the
to get a
neighbors.
condo.
And now your American dream is to find a nice apartment that you can afford to rent until you're old enough to not have any social security, because all the people ahead of us milked it.
Yeah.
So do you think that a lot of what has to do with how our generation doesn't like have morality or respect? Do you think that has to do with the need of independence now? That there's just this big emphasis now to be independent.
Yeah.
I think it's not that we don't have morality. I think it's just a different kind of morality.
Not giving a
And
shit
who
about
can
it.
you blame? You don't make
Yeah.
yourself the way you are. You learn the way you are. So if it's anybody's fault, it might be part our fault, but it's got to be part the people who raised us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If you think about it, though, our parents were kind of almost. I mean, a good percentage of most of our parents were hippies, and there was during that, our parents between that they're probably, I would say, between the 30 to 50 range. There, that a lot of the people were hippies. A lot of the people were idealists. We're that was kind of like a stepping stone for just how we act
That's
now. And it seems to
Well, I
be.
know if my parents were hippie and I was like named Moon Unit or some shit like that, I'd be fucking definitely
Yeah.
axed out.
Yeah, I'd be kind of bitter.
Be
I
tweaked.
think.
Yeah, Janis Joplin Smith or something like that. I don't know.
Besides, our parents, I mean, they had problems. You have that whole Vietnam thing, but you knew that was going to end, and there
Hey,
were
we had
ways
Desert
around
Storm, dude.
We have
Yeah.
things. Yeah, we have things like, okay, you can't go to school with nice sneakers if you live in the city because you're going to get capped and stuff.
Need to thread it. What the fuck now? Fuck, come on.
Understandable. Real life pretty much sucks. So you watch TV and you get to
You escape
See
from
what
it as
life-
much as possible.
no, you get to see what life could be like. It's like fairy tales for grown-up people.
Escape from that shit.
There, trying to look at it more in the center.
Escape.
It's not this is bad. It's hard to get centered because the way that
Yeah.
Wow.
Alrighty then. Alright. What do you guys think?
I know, Matt, you have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I do.
Not you.
Yeah, he talks a good game.
Yeah, I think the world is divided into two kinds of people. There's the kinds of people that like Ginger, and there's the kinds of people that like Marianne. And that's really the big divide, you know.
I like
Sure.
them both.
You like Gilligan.
He was cute. I'd take the millionaire.
The millionaire's So okay, let's think again about maybe media, that like how that plays our, you know, how our generation, or you know, I would almost rather think about the difference between the 20-year-old range and the teens now, because that's way different. A lot of the teens now are like into trying to be down with fucking
OPP and shit.
yeah, with OPP or fucking whatever, you know, just trying to be down with the fucking worst fucking crack dealer in town kind of thing, you know.
It's cool. It's on the news.
Yeah, because it's fucking because it's just like so on the edge or something like that. It's like because you're really dancing with fucking prison and shit.
Yeah, but I don't think they're really thinking about it. I mean,
Right. Well,
because I don't think that.
that not in that way, but more subconsciously and
Yeah, that
more
thrill or whatever.
yeah, and maybe just plotting it that way in your mind, but never actually speaking it out to anybody either. You know, a lot of stuff bubbles in people's minds. So
Yeah, but I don't know if you can blame the media because you have to decide
not blaming
first
the media.
whether you have to decide whether the media is creating the problem. Is the media producing something that kids want to do, or is the media just exploiting what kids
Exploiting.
already want to do? You know, did the media invent making gangs cool first, or did kids decide that gangs were cool and then media exploit that and make movies about it? You know, and then that's really, I'm not really sure which is right or whatever, but you can't just, it's too easy to make, a big blanket statement saying, well, it's the media's fault.
Media
Everyone knows
definitely
right from wrong.
Media definitely had a shot at like making it big and shit like that.
Oh, it didn't
elevating
help the
it because
problem.
I remember gangs when I was in Hoyoke. There was gangs in the fucking 70s, you know.
Yeah.
There was all kinds of gangs
Right,
in,
but it
in the
wasn't-
city when you're in the
Yeah.
inner city. But it, as soon as the media and shit gets a couple drive-bys here and there, and all of a sudden the media's attention is alert because everybody's alert to it. They're like, fucking, holy shit, this just happened. Must be getting bad now. They were just not really looking at it before the media got a hold of it.
Yeah, it almost comes down to organized crime, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I mean, somebody's organizing it. There's, so few busts, even in the inner city. I mean, that kid Brandon, when he came over the other night in the inner city, well, whatever. Cut that part.
Say his last name, man.
I don't know. I can tell you what he looks like. But just saying, how the cops are parked two blocks down watching the kids run from, their building to the car, give something to the person and run back to the, they have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Why don't they just go up and bust the people that are doing it?
Because where are they going to put them? There's not enough room in the jails anymore,
So they should just legalize it if they can't stop it, and tax it and make money off it. What the fuck?
Yeah, and then just bust people for fucking doing things on it.
Right.
You should almost be allowed to just do it in your own home, stay in your own home.
Right.
Fucking,
That's not, I mean,
Rock
definitely.
right. Well, even if you were to do something like a rock den, I mean, that would be your own right as an individual
Right.
human to fucking
But they're saying that it's
die
gonna
if you
produce-
want to.
That might produce more crime though, because how rock
But
heads,
see, they don't want to lose
running
the
out
tax.
on the
They don't want
street
to
trying
lose
to
the
beat
tax-paying
people for money.
citizens. But who's paying tax on rock?
But they're doing that anyways.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean,
That's
probably it'd be a
you're
lot
definitely
cheaper
right.
probably if it was legal. It'd probably be cheaper, so it probably wouldn't
Oh, it
happen.
would definitely be cheaper.
You could
Holy
register
shit.
them as addicts or something and give them a supply for a month or something. They still
Just wait
wouldn't
for them to
be.
get dope sick, and then they have to
Give 'em a
fucking
union.
go
Well, no,
into
they
detox
still
if
wouldn't
they
be
can't
doing
handle it.
shit. Like they wouldn't have a fucking job or nothing, but they don't have a job now, so it's not like you're making the problem any worse.
Right, so just let them smoke rock until they die, and then we'll get rid of that person.
Pretty much, yeah.
What ought to happen is all the people that have to deal to make money, the government should hire them and tax them and supply them.
If they were running the government, we'd probably
That
have
way,
a
that
lot more
would just
money.
cure a fucking job for everybody right there. Who,
This
you know?
room almost. Everybody in this room almost.
Yep.
Ooh. You're a
I forget.
Yeah, you got an extra one at school, right?
Of course I do. I'll probably blank out.
So what was the generation before Generation X? What did they call that? Or did anybody give a fuck? So
Is that our
the
parents?
next time this
Yeah, that would be like the
comes out to
70s,
some
right?
kid in
No.
school
Well, that'd
10
be-
years from now. He's
Yeah,
gonna
in
say,
the
okay,
70s they were in
generation-
their 20s.
Yeah, but wouldn't the early 80s even be before
Yeah.
Generation X?
Well, I'd almost say Generation
Baby
X
boomers,
started.
right?
Yeah,
I'd almost say
early 80s.
it's almost fair to say pretty much when we were born. We
Yeah.
were all. I mean, we were born between what 68 or something like that. 66.
Well, we'll say if you're
Okay.
30 now, that would be 65.
They're gonna be
2 more
So
years,
65
I'll
to
be on Generation
75.
X, dude.
But the whole generation gap thing is to single us out in our 20s.
Yeah.
So it really only starts when we hit our 20s
your
essentially. I'd almost say 19 too, but
See, I wouldn't even consider people in their older 20s part of Generation X because if
Well,
you
I
take
I'm
the
outta
bulk
here.
of people,
I
no, the
would.
bulk of
I-
people,
You're right.
the
Well.
bulk of people that are between their 20s and 30s, and you're gonna lump them into one big group. I mean, there's just that whole like people that will probably be like 28, 29, 30, don't really fit in with the rest of us, you know. That don't work.
But, I mean, the way that the generation is now, though, there is so much diversity and stuff that there's all sorts of, like, different, kinds of people and how they have evolved themselves from, wherever they have left high school and have gone on, But there is, because, I mean, a lot of people change as they progress in life. So, I don't know. But, I mean, yeah, there's so many different kinds of independence throughout individual people that there's just no way to really say who starts where and who does what, because I mean there's plenty of like 11-year-olds that'll listen to Led Zeppelin or something, and that's totally out of their range by all means, so if you think about it, I mean different people are just there's so much diversity that so I mean because I can think of plenty of people that are in their 30s that I would still say are like me in a sense, that I don't know.
Everything gets like redone like every 20 years. Because remember in the
Right.
70s, what were the big deals like Happy Days and all that shit? All like about the 50s. And then towards the end of the 80s, remember on MTV they had like Randy of the Redwoods and that whole like hippie revival thing. And now it's the 90s and like all these like fake punk rock bands are coming out now, like punk rock's coming back. It happens. So maybe in the year 2000, people are gonna, I don't know, they're gonna be doing like Van Halen 1984 again or something,
Yeah.
That's kind of funny because I can't really see any kind of message to the 80s, Those
Everybody
Izod
There was
shirts.
only like, 2 groups of people back in the 60s and shit, There was like people that listened to the Beatles. Everybody listened to the Beatles, There's one huge group. They made it more unified back in the 60s,
Yeah.
I think. Everybody was more unified. Now there's just so many different kinds of
Choices, yeah.
people, and you're so asked to be so independent and be yourself that there's 1,000 cliques.
Yeah.
1,000 different kinds of groups of people. That's why there's so many different kinds of music and everything spreading out. I mean, it's incredible.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why they say, people like the Beatles, they sold so many records, blah, 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 this and that. If the Beatles were out now, I bet you they wouldn't sell a quarter of the records. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Because there wasn't as many things to choose from back then.
Yeah,
So,
and
I mean-
even the further back you go, then you get like
Exactly.
Elvis.
Right.
And Elvis was like the only thing,
Yeah.
It was like, you can listen,
Yeah.
there was like
Elvis.
2 categories. There was Elvis and everything else,
Right.
And now, yeah, you're definitely right. Now there's
Yeah,
so
we're more
much stuff.
diversified.
There's like 50 different kinds of rap, and then you get into like, then you say like, okay, dance music, then you get like techno and house and this and that and the other thing, and that just breaks down into like a ton of stuff. And people get real territorial about it too,
Yeah.
like harder core than now, Like,
Yeah.
I listen to rap, and if you say a rap band, and somebody else around, they might find somebody who's like way more underground and then like front on you about it.
Yeah.
Same thing with everything. Alternative indie music is the worst. It's the worst. Because if like now it's almost seemed like by certain groups of people that I like to listen to this kind of music. They're like, no, they're mainstream. Like that's fucking wrong or something, No, I'd rather listen to a sucky band on a little label, because they have more fucking integrity or something. When you know that if they could get signed to a major label, they would.
Because everybody's so anti.
Yeah, I know. Gotta get rid of them.
We'll weed them
We're number
out.
1 on the list, Kyle.
Yeah. Alright, that's fucking good enough.
Cool. A cool put in the movie.
Offspring was mint, Maddie.
Yeah, I heard Titsy
Oh.
got.
Then they just like leave.